Metacasters, he just said something profound. Jot that down. Get a tattoo on your forearm, right? That language needs to be eradicated from the universe, or all the varieties of that language. Okay, Josh, go ahead. I just wanted to slam it home.
Thank you. I have opted out of enough discussions where the reason I talk about my future self is because there's times now where I am that future self. And I look back like, oh, I should have done that. And so all of those lessons have begun to compound and help shape me in those moments where it's like, okay, gotta go do this. Here we go.
It's a responsibility of leaders that I wanted to talk about it directly. If you're a leader in any role in any area of a company, then I think and I know there's a lot of stuff that goes on your plate. It's a big job, particularly then there's some stuff, superficial stuff, and there's some really important stuff. And this is on that important side. It's your job to lead other leaders. Doesn't mean they report to you. Doesn't mean you're sort of quick and dirty with, no, but it's your job to establish relationships and to lead with other leaders. Entry music. Da, 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 da. It's the Bob and Josh Show.
Topic is more broad than you might expect because Bob and I believe that people aren't leading broadly enough. So that's what we're going to focus on today. What do you think about that, Bob? You think that scope is good?
I think so. I think we're two broad fellows. So having a broad scope to the episode is apropos. I think.
What have I done?
You've let loose the urchin from the bottle. Yes.
This is the second time in the past 5 minutes I just regret some of my choices.
It's okay. So Metacasters, we're going to talk about your leadership responsibility beyond your org chart, beyond your downward facing org chart. That means, and Josh and I were talking about it. I was trying to juice him up on it, and I don't know if he's juicy enough on the topic yet. But I was thinking about it. This actually, the genesis of this is coming from a blog article. I haven't written it yet, but it's in my queue of ideas. And is leaders should be leading leaders. And actively doing that. And so that, the aspects to that is role modeling, mentoring, teaching, things like that, calling out, having tough conversations with people around you and the other leaders around you in the organization, almost unidirectionally. I don't care where they could be, in another org below you. They could be parallel, peer level. It could be bosses, not necessarily your boss. We've talked about managing your boss, I think, in previous episodes. But what about you're in technology, and you're the VP of technology, and the VP of customer support is running amok, right? They're doing a great job, and you have a little bit of a relationship with them. But they're not really connecting customer feedback into your organization. And you have an agile organization, they're not really effectively representing that outward. They're giving you a lot of date-driven stuff. They're committing, like they've given permission to the entire customer support organization to do date commitments to go directly to customers. So they've sort of run amok that way. So what do? And do you whine to your boss? Because there's not a direct relationship. So what would be a normal reaction? Or I don't know if it's normal, but then you complain to your boss. So it's two levels up and indirect. So you complain to your boss to complain to their boss, to then complain to the boss of the other organization, to complain down, to complain down, to complain down. Or I'm sorry, complaining sounds so whiny. To give corrective action feedback.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's something I fight very hard to prevent. And I talk about this as actively as I can, both to my team and across the organization, is we should not be playing what I call the ladder game, where feedback goes up and back down. Because number one, you have the telephone game issue while we're on that.
Oh, absolutely.
framing of games is that message changes, and by the time it gets to that person, you don't actually know what that person hears. And you might have had the best intent, you might have provided the clearest articulation of what the problem is or could be, but by the time it gets to that person, it's been, just completely transformed because of the telephone game. So that's problem number one. Problem number two is just time. The time that the ladder takes for it to work its way up and then work its way back down, weeks. It's certainly not going to happen in minutes or hours. And then one of the hardest things about feedback is connecting in that moment of, oh, wait a minute, there's a thing that happened 2 weeks ago that you want to replay and discuss. I don't even remember that. I've so much has happened since then that it's hard for me to put myself back in that space. So feedback is hard to consume when it's late. So there's a handful of problems that whenever I hear feedback or discussion or debate working up the ladder and back down the ladder, that's a huge problem that you have to just stop right away. And that's easy to say, hard to do. I think that's what we'll get in here a little bit with the episode.
I think the other thing is feedback has this, tactical or finite duration sort of notion to it. I also think of it as, Josh and I are leaders in the organization at disparate areas of the org chart, and he's being a real jerk, right? And his heart's in the right place. But I hear through the grapevine, for example, from his troops that he's a real ass, right? And
Facts.
and it's but he's not hearing it from them. And I know Josh's heart. So I know his heart. His heart's in the right place. He's incredibly well intentioned. He's incredibly serious, but something weird's happening in his group. And I think it's just not a conversation. I think he needs mentoring. Josh just joined the organization, so he doesn't quite understand the culture. So do I just let it? Oh, that's Josh's boss needs to, screw that, right? It's on them, right? And if they're doing it, great. And if they're not doing it, I don't care because it's not my job,
right?
And I would say that's if I'm a leader in that organization, of any sort, particularly if I'm probably in closer proximity to Josh, and really if I have any kind of a relationship with him, I have a responsibility not only to have that conversation with him, but to offer to mentor him, to offer to help him in any way I possibly can. And that's what so there's short duration conversations, feedback, but there's longer duration relationship responsibilities on the mentoring, on sort of side of things, on the helping side of things. Let's flip it around a little bit. Josh has some problems in his family, or I have some problems in my family. I always have problems in my family, so I have some problems, and it's impacting my work, and I need a little bit of support. I need a little bit of cover from someone to step in and help me. And no one in my own direct organization is really capable of doing it. And Josh knows about that, so he would volunteer to step in and help. I guess what I'm amplifying is the helping side of things. Like we're in this leaders leading leaders. And it's feedback, it's mentoring, it's cross-training, it's providing cover for those folks, it's helping them when they need help. It's that unified, maybe a better way to say it is we're a team, having the mental mindset that we are a team of leaders.
Yeah, one of my least favorite phrases when I hear it, and I work diligently to remove it from the lexicon of whatever organization I'm in, is that's above my pay grade.
Yeah,
that is just not something that I'm willing to accept, because that provides people a way to just get off the hook of, oh, that's not my problem, and so then problems just begin to compound because everybody that's not my problem, and then they're waiting for somebody else to solve a problem. And
wait, hold it a second. Hold it,
yes.
Josh. Don't lose your thought. Metacasters, he just said something profound. Jot that down. Get a tattoo on your forearm, right? That language needs to be eradicated from the universe, or all the varieties of that language. Okay, Josh, go ahead. I just wanted to slam it home.
Thank you. And so dealing with that is a massive, massive lift and will take months, if not years, because to remove that's above my pay grade or that's not my problem from the way an organization thinks, you have to fundamentally change the way that whole organization operates and the way they respond to a problem. And that can be a terribly lonely road to try and lay down. But when you achieve that, amazing things happen because you begin to operate, just as Bob said, as a team. Most organizations don't operate as a team. They operate as like, I've got my little job, but I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to do it well. And whatever happens over here in camp, run amok, just cool. It's going to be, that's not my problem, but I'm doing my thing and I'm doing it well. And it's still hard to do your job well. I'm not suggesting that doing that is easy, but it's even harder to do your job well and lift your head up and look around and say, okay, gosh, where else are we struggling? Is there anything else I can do? And so that's where real leaders and where I believe great organizations are shaped when they have hired, built, grown, put in place leaders that operate like that. Easier said than done.
One of the skill sets, I think, and this is a nice part of this discussion, bringing in agile coaching skills and an agile coaching mindset. So Metacasters, it's not just having the conversations. Put on the mindset of a coach. So one of the things that a coach thinks about is earning the right to give feedback. Another thing is co-creating the agenda. Not just going into Josh and saying, Josh, you suck at leading your team, and I'm going to tell you how to improve that. And then I'll check back in with you in a week to see if you followed my words directly. It's not like that at all. The first step is, in order to do what we're talking about, leading leaders, is creating relationships with those leaders. Just like leading, I mean, if you're a good leader of the org chart, then it's bringing that mindset and those skills outward. So establishing relationships with people, building empathy with leaders in the organization, showing that you can handle the feedback yourself would be important. That you can handle the tough talk, and not just handle it, but do something with it. Take action based on that feedback, and doing all of those things, meeting people where they are. So I think, not that you have to become an agile coach, but taking agile coaching skills and learning them and honing them and making them a part of your leadership skill set is going to make you'll be able to act on this much better. And so if you don't have those skills, I would say scale yourself back, start experimenting, start moving slowly. Don't walk boldly into the CEO's office on Monday morning and start telling them some stuff, because you listen to the Metacast and you tell them to listen to the Metacast as well. No, you want to start, sort of spatially, with less risk, and then start practicing and really get committed to it.
Yeah, there's certainly a dark side to this where someone maybe pulls a bit of the message that Bob and I are trying to send. Somebody pulls just a slice of that and begins running around trying to correct everybody.
Yeah.
That's not the mindset. The mindset is not to run around and correct everybody. If that's anything you've heard, if that's what you've pulled away from what we've discussed in the first 10 or 15 minutes of this conversation, please hit pause, rewind, start over with this mindset. Your job is not to run around and correct people. What we're asking you to do is look around and say, is there anybody that needs support? And if you identify that support might be needed, have a conversation with that person. Ask questions, be empathetic, understand what's going on, make sure that you have the full story. Because too often what happens is people get a little sliver of a story and make assumptions and fill in the gaps with, assuming not the positive. and you start writing the story of, oh, well, this is what's going on over there, when you have no freaking clue, right? So that's when you need to hit the pause button, sit down, have a conversation with somebody you've established a relationship with, as Bob talked about. Say, hey, what's going on? This doesn't feel normal. Like, is everything okay? Is there anything I could do? Like, what's going on? And oftentimes, what will happen is you'll get the entire story, and it'll be, oh, okay, cool.
Right.
You got this. Like, if there's anything I could do, let me know. But it sounds like you got this under control. Like, I was just checking in to make sure you're good. Or it could be a situation where it's like, boy, I am underwater. I need help. I don't know where to do. My boss isn't helping me. I'm just stuck. Bob, you got any ideas? And that's when the magic happens. But we are not suggesting that you run around and find everything that you think isn't being done right and try and correct it because you know best. That is not the intention of what we are suggesting that should be done.
That said, I do think there's a bit of, there's different contexts here. One context is speaking truth to power.
Yeah.
Or another way of saying that is telling the emperor that they have no clothes. I think Josh and I've talked, or Josh has brought this up in a previous episode where he's talked about leaders don't always get good feedback.
Yeah.
A lot of people were afraid, whatever the reasons are, but leadership is a lonely place very often. And not a lot of people are really giving you feedback. So as a leader, Josh talked about, I think as a leader, I know I've been in this situation a lot. You become desperate for, like, people think, oh, I can't tell Bob that. I'm afraid, I'm this, I'm that. And at least from my point of view, it's like I'm desperately seeking feedback. Otherwise, I'm driving in the dark with my lights off, and I don't I don't have it. Now, I may not separate that from, do I like it? Do I like being told that my nose is too big? Do I like being told that my leadership style is tough over it? No. But I'm also mature enough and sort of seasoned enough to know that I want that so that I can take some action on it. So it's that gift. But these are hard, scary conversations sometimes. And if you haven't done so, what are two risk areas? You haven't, at least two. One, you haven't built the trust relationship up to give it. So then if you're giving it to me, I'm going to, you're a jerk, right? You haven't earned it. You just walk into my office. We haven't built any, I don't know that you care, right? You need to establish that there's the caring part of it, for me. The other thing is I need to see that you take it yourself, right? So that you're walking your talk. So there's some of that stuff that has to happen. Josh, react to anything I said.
I agree 100%. And we've talked about it a handful of times. As you progress up the career ladder, or whatever visual you want to use to define that, the amount of feedback you receive begins to exponentially decrease. Let me correct that. The amount of constructive feedback that you receive begins to decrease in an exponential way. You might get a lot of complaints and things, and that's part of the job, and your job is to correct some of those issues. But as far as, hey, I'm going to invest time in you to
Right.
help you grow and become the leader that you need, which is one of those confounding things where the people that we are asking to lead the most get led the least. It's just one of those backwards things that our society, culture, organizational design, or whatever it is, just kind of expects that once you've been promoted or been assigned a specific leadership role, that you really no longer need leadership. And there are fantastic executive coaches or mentors that you can have, or relationships that you build, with somebody like Bob or somebody like myself, where you can get that support. But it is unnervingly rare that people are getting the help and support that they need. And that's I think that exacerbates this issue.
There was something I was going to say, and I lost it earlier. There's another thing to be careful of. So there's some pre-work you have to do. I'm going to say something that's going to shock all of you. but I'm going to say it anyway because it needs to be said. There are some people out there that are just brilliant jerks, or sometimes they're referred to as assholes. And though, no matter, so those folks will never take your feedback. They're not leadable, right? So that doesn't mean you don't try, but your radar is up saying, am I giving a gift to an asshole, or is that asshole going to turn around and stab me in the back with it or something like that? And so you do need to be politically aware, socially aware of the landscape. But I don't think that immediately takes you off the hook to say binary no, no,
Yeah.
no, no, right? But you have to be cognizant of the landscape.
Yeah, what I have found in situations like that, that person has been created, that personality has been shaped partially on their own, but partially on the fact that people have been afraid to provide the feedback to that person because they're the brilliant jerk. It can be difficult to have a discussion with somebody that is brilliant, and then you pair that with them being a jerk, and usually jerk means you don't listen very well. And so that makes it a difficult, challenging conversation to have. And so what happens is that as that employee gains that moniker over time, the feedback lessens. And so therefore they are being implicitly confirmed that my actions are okay. It's okay for me to operate like this because no one said I shouldn't. No one said it's disruptive. In fact, no one said anything. So I assume that's a confirmation of, oh, keep doing the thing that you're doing. And then because they're likely technically gifted, they probably get promotions and raises and all those things. So there's this additional confirmation and support of like, hey, you're doing great. And so somebody has to do that thing of recognizing the responsibility that is required and have the difficult conversation. And when you start that, you need to go into the first 5 discussions assuming nothing is going to be heard, because that person has probably never heard a negative thing in their career because of how they've progressed. And I personally feel horrible for people like that because I value feedback so much, and I feel as if this person has had the feedback they need and deserve like stolen away from them because their prior leaders or prior peers were afraid to do it. So their prior coaches opted out. They said, "Oh, this is too hard. I'm out of here." I feel bad for those folks. So I actually work pretty darn hard to try and coach them out of that because I see that diamond in the rough, the keyword rough there. And I feel the responsibility of all the people that let that person down over the previous years. And it doesn't mean it always works out. I'm not suggesting that I can go in and clean up any situation. No, but I am willing to put in the hard work and figure out, hey, does this person just need to hear feedback they've never heard? And often that feedback is shocking because again, they've never heard it. They've been promoted. They've heard all these nice things, but you're doing great. You know, all these things. It's just people are afraid to have the conversation with them. So I feel this unbalanced responsibility to like make up for what they lost. And I will wade in like a crazy person trying to solve that. But also I have learned over the years that there's times where it's time to cut bait. And I've done everything I can to try and solve this problem. And it's just, I think I could get it there, but the effort required to make that happen is so massive that it would distract me from all the other responsibilities that I have. So at that point, got to make a move that nobody likes.
When you were talking, Josh, I think of you as being the leader of the island of misfit toys or something like that. Like you are one of those, and I don't mean that this is a positive way. You are relentlessly trying to improve people. But there is another case here of someone who is the malicious ass, and they do exist, and it's not just one per company sometimes. So Metacasters just be careful with that, right? Be aware of that more so. You can even, and if you feel bold, you want to sharpen your communication skills, then have have some fun communicating to that person, right? Right. Sharpen those chops.
Yeah.
Sharpen the defense, deflector screens and things like that. We
Well,
Go ahead,
yeah,
Josh.
and I have learned over the years to quickly detect when the deflector shields need to go up and need to go up quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
So again, I have relentlessly fought those battles and I've built up some scars, but it also has taught me like, oh, okay,
Yep.
I'm gonna just turn right back around and head out of here. Thanks.
Yep. I want to go back to something you said earlier about that ladder
Mm-hmm.
thing, Josh, and I wanted to talk about it a little bit more. One thought I had was it's not just a time delay. It's I'm thinking out loud that there's also there's the Bob said dilemma,
Yeah.
right? Bob said this, and then they get the message wrong. Then Bob said this, and they get the message even more wrong. And then Bob said this, and Bob said this. And by the time it gets down here, this is all about Bob, right? It's lost. It's all about like finger pointing, either direct or indirect finger pointing. Bob's complaining about you, right? So, the other thing with that is either it makes it better if the leaders take a really proactive view of it's not about Bob, I'm seeing this too. So how they have the conversation, or the better approach is to have these direct communications. There's a lot of obfuscation in communicating when you're doing any of these email, text messages, about any bouncing ball. And so when I'm talking about leaders leading leaders, you get up and you have a face-to-face conversation. That's no excuse.
Right.
If there's a 12-hour time zone difference, figure that out. If you have to have a crucial conversation, it's that face-to-face conversation. It's coming from you. You want to hear from them.
So here's how you make that happen. Here's how you start to create that. Whenever anybody comes to you and is expressing a frustration with another member of your team or any part of the organization across the board, your first response should be, have you spoken to them?
Yeah.
Have you discussed this? Are they aware? Do they have any idea? And oftentimes the response is no. Okay, well, come back when you have. Now, that's the easy way, but what you need to do is say, okay, cool. So you need to go speak with this person. You haven't because you're concerned, you're nervous, you're unsure how to make that happen. So let's build a game plan for how you can go have this discussion that you're uncomfortable having. So that's your
Right.
coaching moment. That's when, number one, you set the stage for, here's the expectation. The expectation is you've already spoken to that person, you've addressed the situation, and you're not making the progress that you would like. So now you've come to me for help. And okay, cool. Let's brainstorm how we can navigate this and what we can do. But until you've reached out and had the discussion with this person, made them aware of the issue, because oftentimes what you'll find is when folks are made aware of something that isn't landing right, their first response is to be like, oh, dang, sorry. Okay, let me fix that, and done. But so many conversations are left unhad. And so those realizations and discoveries of things that aren't working or aren't landing just never make it into someone's brain. But the number of times that I've had that discussion with a member of my team or someone else, and you can see that fear, like you feel the nervousness well up from within them, and like, oh no, I mean, I have to go talk to this person and tell them I'm frustrated or I don't know what to do or I'm angry or whatever. Yes, that's what I'm asking you to do. And the unfortunate reality is that not many people have been coached on how to handle those types of situations, which is why that fear exists. So that's your moment. That's where you step up and start shaping the organization into a collection of people, building a real team where they can have the conversations that are needed, the crucial conversations that are required for that team to become something really special. But that's the hard part. And you can't let people off the hook, but you also need to support them. And so that's where, number one, there's two things that seldom happen. One, the response is, well, have you talked to them? Have you addressed the issue? That's not, unfortunately, that's not what people first launch with. Then the realization of, oh no, you hadn't. And so now it's like, okay, go solve that problem. Get out of here. Like, that's not my problem. You didn't do your job.
Correct.
That's your job as a coach, is to coach. That's the moment where you make the magic happen. As you coach that person, you give them tools they are unaware of that they needed or that they actually have within themselves to have the discussion.
I think there's a practice, everyone. I'm thinking you have to switch gears from it's not my responsibility to everything is my responsibility to have these conversations, and then force yourself. I mean, so Josh and I are talking about it. I don't know if it's easy for him, but I'm thinking of Ralph Kasuba as a leader I've reported to historically over the years, and Ralph and I have a good relationship, a friendly and a collegial relationship, and there's still a lot of the conversations I'm not looking forward to, I'm not jazzed up about. I could easily avoid them. It's sort of like getting yourself. It's my job, I guess, is look at myself in the mirror and saying, I could find 100 excuses to not have the conversation. But when I look at the bottom of the mirror, there's a little, it's your freaking job to lead other leaders, and that not lead them by telling them what to do, but lead them by aligning. It could be aligning yourself to them. Maybe you're out of line, so you have to have an alignment discussion with another leader. Or if, let's say, I'm over budgeted and Josh is under budgeted, it may be something as tactical and as important as giving headcount to Josh or giving budget to Josh because it's the right thing to do, and having that conversation. So it's not all confrontational conversations. It's give conversations. It's, can I help you? Asking a question conversation. Think about, I think the right mindset for this is, for example, as a leader, be curious, ask people questions. Well, start asking your peers and folks, not trick questions, but those really sincere questions, and just be that leader and do it more broadly, but push yourself to do that.
Yeah. The question that I ask myself of, should I have this discussion, is, will future Josh be proud or saddened by the action that I take?
Oh, I like that. I like that.
Yeah. Of six months from now, if I look back and say, okay, I didn't have this conversation, will I be disappointed in myself? Or will I be proud that, okay, cool, you did the hard thing? And listen, Bob and I, there are times where we say, hey, just go do this. Right. And we understand that what we're suggesting and what we're challenging you with is a challenge. It is difficult. It is hard. It is uncomfortable. Bob just talked about a guy. If you've known Bob for 20 minutes, you know how he feels about Ralph. Bob has shared many times about how much he enjoyed working with and for Ralph. So that's the thing. But also, even with the relationship that Bob has with Ralph, there are still uncomfortable conversations.
Absolutely.
Right? It's still, there have been times where Bob and I have had various talks, and I am sure whoever it is kicking off that talk doesn't have all the warm and fuzzies about, oh my gosh, I got to go tell my buddy this. Like, oh man, this isn't, I got to do this, but I don't want to. Right. And so that never goes away. And with repetition, you get more confident in your ability to have the difficult discussions. We're not saying they ever get easy or they ever get comfortable, but that's the responsibility that Bob and I feel. And I have opted out of enough discussions where the reason I talk about my future self is because there's times now where I am that future self. And I look back like, oh, I should have done that. And so all of those lessons have begun to compound and help shape me in those moments where it's like, okay, gotta go do this. Here we go.
Hey Josh, do you have a minute? Can I give you some?
Sure.
Can I give you some cranially focused feedback?
Sure, Bob. I look forward to hearing your opinion and your views on the situation.
You have an awfully huge head.
Oh, I know.
And I've
Tell me about it.
noticed that it's distracting to some of our customers when they come in.
Yes, you hear the whispers. Oh my God. Look at that thing.
He must be smart. He must be real smart. So
yes.
I did not help us. I think we nailed this episode, Josh. What do you think?
Of course we did.
Again, Metacasters, to put a final nail in it, it's a responsibility of leaders that I wanted to talk about it directly. If you're a leader in any role in any area of a company, then I think and I know there's a lot of stuff that goes on your plate. It's a big job. Particularly then there's some stuff, superficial stuff, and there's some really important stuff. And this is on that important side. It's your job to lead other leaders. Doesn't mean they report to you. Doesn't mean you're sort of quick and dirty with. No, but it's your job to establish relationships and to lead with other leaders, to show up just the way you do in your wonderful leadership style with your team, show up in your organization. And I can almost guarantee you that you will become a better leader. Your leadership team will become better. Your organization will be better based on your efforts.
Yeah, it has a compounding effect once you start doing that and then start creating that culture. And that's when greatness really happens.
So from beautiful downtown Cary, North Carolina.
And beautiful downtown Fuquay, Varina, North Carolina.
I'm Bob Galen.
And I'm Josh Anderson.
Wait, hold it. You're Josh what?
Oh, what was I? I forget. We gave me a name last time.
Right?
I don't remember. Do you remember?
You're Josh, I don't know. I'm in the ballpark. Josh the Bulldozer Anderson.
Sure, something like that. We'll go with that.
Shake
and bake.
Take care, y'all.
See ya.
No, it wasn't the bulldozer. What was it?
I don't remember.
I forget what it was.
I don't know.
You need a name.
Apparently.
You do. You need like a wrestling moniker, you know?
Yeah, that sounds good.